All right, let's take a look at adding integers. So whenever they say to model something, they're saying that you should draw pictures of some sort. Now, we've been doing 5 plus 3 for a long time, but if you want to model 5 plus 3, that is a positive 5. I'm going to use pluses for positive. So I've got 5 of those. Then I'm going to add a positive 3. And then I ask myself, how many total pluses do I have? Well, I have 8. So that right there is an example of how to model 5 plus 3. Okay, so on the solution page, it kind of just shows you, and you can always hit pause on these videos. So if you want to take some time to read through the solutions page, I'll only show them for just a couple of seconds, and you can hit pause if you need to. Okay, so now we're told to model -5 plus -3. So with the negative numbers, I'm going to use minus signs for those. So I've got 5 negative signs there, plus I also have 3 more negative signs. So remember, the negative signs mean negative, or the minus signs do. So I've got 8 total minus signs or negative signs, so this would be an answer of -8. Okay, hit pause if you need to. Okay, so for this problem right here, I've got -5 plus a positive 3. So I'm going to put 5 minus signs down, and then I'm going to put 3 plus signs down. Now, one thing that I really want you to remember here is that a plus and a minus, they cancel each other out. This creates 0 right there. So right here with this problem, I have, there's a 0, there's a 0, and there's a 0. So what am I left with? I'm left with 2 minus signs, and so my answer here is -2. Okay, so for this problem, I'm going to have 5 plus signs, so that's a positive 5. Now I'm going to add to it 3 negatives. And so how many zeros did I create? There's a set of zeros, or a 0, there's a 0, and there's a 0. So what am I left with? I'm left with 2 positives, so the answer here is +2. Now, anytime we indicate a positive number, we don't necessarily put anything in front of it, but if it makes you feel better to write that, that is also correct. Okay, so with problems like this, is it really practical to write out 19 plus signs and 47 minus signs? So one thing that I want you to realize is happening is whenever we're adding two numbers together and they have different signs, really what we're doing is we're subtracting the smaller number from the larger number, but keeping the sign of the larger number. So if you think of this as money, you have $19, but you owe somebody $47. You can give them your 19, but you're still going to owe them some money, right? So now the question is, how much do you owe? Well, here's how you find out. 47 minus 19, so you get 28, but remember, you still owe money, so that would be a -28. So we kept the sign of the larger number. 47 is larger than 19, and it has a negative sign in front of it, so we kept that sign. Now look at the part B. We've got -32 plus 40. And just so you know, you can, because of the associative property, because of the commutative property, you're allowed to write things in different order, so that right there is the same as that. And we've been doing that for a long time. But just so you know what we would do for this, again, we're going to keep the sign of the larger number. That's a positive, so our answer here will be positive. Smaller from the larger, whoops. and keep the sign of the larger number. So we knew that if we owe somebody $32, but we have 40, we have $8 after we pay our debt. Okay, this problem right here is like saying you owe somebody plus you owe somebody some more. So that means at the end, you're actually going to owe a lot, or a lot more than you did in the beginning. So when the signs are the same and you're adding, you add the numbers together and you keep that sign. So you would do 14 plus 36 and you get an answer of 50. But remember, they're both negatives, so we have to keep that sign. We owe somebody $50. Okay, so now we're going to evaluate x plus 7 when x equals -2. So I'm going to take this -2 and I'm going to put it where I see x. -2 plus 7. And what is -2 plus 7? You owe somebody $2 plus you have 7. So when all is said and done, you still have $5. Now the next one that I'm going to do on part B, I'm going to take this -11 and I'm going to put it where I see x. So I've got -11 plus 7. So I owe $11, but I have 7. So whenever I combine that, I now owe only $4. I kept the sign of the larger number. All right, so for this problem, I'm going to let n equals -5, and I'm going to put it in two different places. On part A, I'm going to put it right there. So I've got -5 plus 1, and what is -5 plus 1? That is -4. And for this one, I've got the opposite of n, but remember, I've already got a negative right there. So what is the opposite of -5? It's +5. So this answer is 6. Another way to look at this is if you put a parenthesis right here, then I would have this negative right here, then I would have parentheses, and I'm going to plug this in right there. And what happens whenever you have a negative times a negative? It turns into a positive, so I've got 5 plus 1, which is 6. It's another way to look at it. All right, for this problem, I'm going to let x equal -18, and I'm going to let y equal 24. So, -18 plus 24 squared. What is -18 plus 24? Well, 24 is bigger than 18, so it's going to be a positive number. So -18 plus 24, 24 minus 18 is 6. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay, so for this problem, we're going to translate and simplify. The word sum, the word sum means addition. So we would find the sum, -9 plus 5. That's how we translated it. That's the translate part. Now the simplify part is where you just combine those and you get an answer of -4. Okay, for this problem right here, the temperature in Buffalo, New York, one morning started at 7 degrees below 0. So that's a -7. By noon, it had warmed up 12 degrees, so the temperature rose, which is a plus, 12 degrees. So what was the temperature at noon? -7 plus 12 is 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, a football team took possession of the football on their 42-yard line. In the next 3 plays, they lost 6 yards, so loss is going to be subtraction. So they started here, then they lost 6, they gained 4, and then they lost 8. And so now they're asking what yard line was the ball at the end of those 3 plays. So I would do 42 minus 6 is 36. Okay, now we need to do 36 plus 4, which is 40. And now I'm going to do 40 minus 8, which is 32. So now we are at the 32 yard line. And again, I'm going to reiterate that I know not everybody is a sports fan, and so on a test or a quiz, I don't really feel like it's very fair to put questions about sports on there. Now, the questions about temperature, fair game, but the questions about can be very unfair for people. So you won't see that on a test or a quiz.